19-year-old named Şemil murdered two young girls, just 2 hours apart. The killings were exceptionally gruesome. Police later found a disturbing connection between Şemil and an incel community on Discord. This case is one of the most shocking and brutal in Turkey's recent history. This is more than a story. By searching for its root causes, we seek to honor the lost and build a world where such profound suffering is prevented from ever happening again. The crimes took place in Istanbul, Turkey's largest and most historic city, located on the Bosporus Strait. One of its famous landmarks is the ancient walls of Constantinople, built in the 5th century, stretching nearly 6 kilometers and reaching 12 meters high. These historic walls recently became the site of a horrific and senseless crime. The clock read 4 p.m. on Friday, October 4, 2024, in Istanbul's historic Fatih district. For Hasan Yüzüner and his wife, a quiet afternoon had spiraled into a nightmare. Their 19-year-old daughter, Iqbal, was missing. Her mother, frantic, dialed Iqbal's number again and again. Finally someone answered, but it was not her daughter. A strange young man's voice came through the line, with an eerie, chilling calm. "Do not worry," he said flatly. "Your daughter is in good hands." Before she could respond, the call ended. Desperate, she called back immediately. This time a different man answered. He explained he had just found the phone on the ground, near the Edirne Kapı gates. Someone, he said, had thrown it from the top of the ancient walls of Constantinople. Driven by panic, Iqbal's parents raced to the site. While some sections of the nearly 1,600-year-old walls are accessible to tourists, others are sealed off with wire mesh, deemed unsafe due to the risk of collapse. They attempted to climb a closed area near where the phone was found, but it was impossible. As they struggled, their attention was drawn to a growing commotion. A crowd had gathered, their phones pointed upward. At the top of the walls, silhouetted against the sky, a thin young man dressed entirely in black was making threatening gestures as if he intended to jump. The couple pushed through the crowd, desperately scanning for any sign of Iqbal. It was then they saw it. Lying on the ancient pavement, seconds after being thrown from above, was a decapitated head. Chaos erupted. Screams filled the air. But for Hasan and his wife, the world went silent. There was no mistaking the face staring back at them. It was their daughter, Iqbal. As police cars and ambulances finally screamed to the scene, their sirens adding to the din, bystanders had to physically restrain the couple, the victim's parents, now consumed by a horror beyond words. The young man at the top of the wall tied a rope around his neck and sat near the edge, staring blankly into the distance. Next to him, the victim's 2 hands could be seen sticking out from where the rest of her body lay. Suddenly, he stood up, tightened the rope, and jumped from the wall, intending to hang himself. But the rope snapped. He fell nearly 12 meters to the ground and died instantly. Iqbal's father ran to the fallen young man and began hitting his body in rage. Police officers had to pull him away. The entire scene was recorded on dozens of phones and quickly streamed on social media. Within minutes, the shocking news had spread across Turkey. At the top of the ancient walls of Constantinople, investigators were met with a meticulously arranged, horrific display. The body of the girl had been completely dismembered, cut in 2 at the waist. Her lower half and upper half were separated and placed apart. Between them lay her naked, decapitated torso, positioned to face the street below. In another gap of the stonework, her arms protruded over the edge as if reaching out. Nearby, a sharp knife was discovered at the scene, the likely tool the murderer used to carry out this macabre act. The victim's own parents identified the suspect, Semih, a former high school classmate of Iqbal's. The two had briefly been in a relationship about a year and a half earlier. Police went immediately to Semih's apartment in Üsküdar. There, they made a horrific discovery. In his room on the bed was another young woman, who had been partially beheaded. She was identified as 19-year-old Ayşenur Celik. She and Semih had been in a relationship for about a year. News that a man had killed two girls swept across Turkey, sparking widespread anger. This case is part of a much larger problem. Over the last 20 years, the number of women killed in Turkey has risen, shockingly. A 2013 study found that 34% of Turkish men thought violence against women was sometimes justified. There have been major public protests against such crimes, before like after the murders of Özcan Aslan in 2015 and Pinar Gültekin in 2020. Despite this public outcry, the Turkish government took a step backward in 2019 by withdrawing from the Istanbul Convention, a key international treaty designed to protect women from domestic violence. Semih, born in Istanbul in 2004, was described by his father Adem as suicidal. During high school, a teacher warned Adem that Semih should avoid a particular friend. Adem also said Semih spent excessive time on his computer and would panic, shutting it off when family entered his room, as it contained disturbing, psychotic, and immoral material. In early 2022, the typically shy 17-year-old began dating a classmate, Iqbal Yüzüner. Their relationship seemed positive until March 1st, when Iqbal's mother called Semih's family. She accused him of brainwashing her daughter and claimed the two were planning a joint suicide. Confronted by his parents that night, Semih took a knife and stabbed himself in the chest near his heart. He was hospitalized at the Bakırköy Mental Health Hospital, where he was stabilized. After 3 weeks of psychological and psychiatric treatment, he was discharged. After his breakup, Semih started regularly using alcohol and drugs, which damaged his mental health. He took a job as a butcher's assistant in Istanbul. He spent his money on his addictions and began keeping the sharp butcher knives from work in his room, forbidding anyone from touching them, a worrying sign given his state. Semih was deeply unhappy and suicidal, believing he was going to die regardless. His parents were very concerned. He refused his medication and had already tried to overdose that same year. At 18, he started dating a classmate, Ayşenur Celik, who would often visit him alone in his room for hours. Semih was artistic, but his paintings and drawings were disturbing, featuring satanic symbols and images of dead women. His father, Adem, said the family knew he was ill. He had been admitted to a psychiatric clinic 5 times in the past year, but they never thought he would hurt anyone besides himself. On Friday, October 4, 2024, in Eyüp Sultan, Semih was home alone. He invited his girlfriend Ayşenur Halil to the house. At approximately 1:30 p.m., he murdered her by cutting off her tongue and beheading her. After calling the police to report the murder, he fled. Armed with a butcher's knife, Semih then went to the Fatih district. He climbed a fence to reach an old staircase on the walls of Constantinople. There, he contacted a second person, Iqbal Yüzüner, and asked her to meet him. When she arrived, he killed her. After the murder, he dismembered her body, arranged the remains grotesquely, and threw the head onto the street below, drawing the attention of dozens of bystanders. Shortly afterward, Semih jumped from the tower. Investigators searching the suspect's room discovered a sketchbook filled with disturbing charcoal drawings. One image depicted a dismembered female body, grotesquely posed in a way that closely matched the crime scene, where Iqbal Usuner's body was found. This suggests the killer tried to recreate his drawing with the victim's remains, though his reason for doing so, in a public location like the walls of Constantinople, remains unknown. Evidence in the room pointed to an interest in Satanism, including a demon painting, a defaced picture of Mary and Jesus, and a drawing of a Satanist symbol, known as the Sigil of Lucifer. This symbol closely matched a geometric shape the suspect planned to form with the victim's dismembered body. The suspect's internet search history included queries about extreme violence and famous serial killers, known for incorporating art into their crimes. Investigators also found a copy of the novel Ragdoll by Daniel Cole, which features a killer who builds a puppet from his victim's remains. This striking parallel led to widespread speculation online and in the media that the book may have inspired the murder. To meet girls his age, Semih joined an incel-related Discord group filled with misogynistic content. When this was discovered, experts were puzzled. While Şemil had clear psychological issues and a history of hallucinations, hospitals never gave him a definitive diagnosis. Despite his mental state, his crimes showed careful planning. Some investigators believed he was part of the Cult of Boxes, a satanic occult group, and that he practiced satanic rituals. Şemil's known interest in Satanism, including a past attempt to join a sect, supported this. Suspicions deepened when his phone vanished during the investigation. Many believed it held key evidence of an online satanic sect that was planning more ritualistic murders. After the high-profile Double Atrocity of Istanbul murders, protests erupted in Turkey. Blame was placed on misogyny, Satanism, and mental health failings. Online, incel groups mocked the victims and justified the killer, causing even more outrage among the population. In response, Turkish authorities controversially banned Discord indefinitely. The killer, Şemil, was a mentally ill, misogynistic individual, radicalized online. He became nationally hated compared to a serial killer, and some people began harassing on social media anyone who bore any physical resemblance to him. Shockingly, some admirers later tried to burn a victim's grave and visited the murder site to praise him. 2 of those involved would be detained by police, although they were released shortly after for being minors. This is not just a story. We will now try to search for the root causes so that such an incident may not happen again. The horrific Double Atrocity of Istanbul forces us to look beyond the single killer and examine the deeper failures that allowed this tragedy to unfold. We must look at the role of online radicalization on platforms like Discord, where isolated young men are fed extreme misogyny and violent ideologies. We must look at the gaps in mental health care, where a young man known to be ill and hospitalized multiple times could fall through the cracks without adequate support or intervention. We must look at the societal tolerance for violence against women, evidenced by shocking statistics and the withdrawal from protective treaties. And we must look at how fascination with dark art and violent media can warp a vulnerable mind. By searching for these root causes, in our systems, our communities, and our culture, we honor the victims, Iqbal and Aysener. We do this not only to understand what happened, but to build a world where it cannot happen again. Please share your advices, prayers, and comments, so all the children of all the parents may live safe.